remember doing the Rail Moat manhunt 10 years ago. And of course, it turned out that Rail Moat, the man who'd shot a police officer, was living in a storm drain, and he was subject of a very intense police search in a very small area and was able to avoid capture. So the police are putting considerable resources into this. He was in an area where there is lots of CCTV.
It is an extraordinary story. And one aspect to it, which David may talk to, but we should all think about, is this question of how he may have converted to Christianity in order to aid his bid to claim refugee status in this country. And the question then arises, how often is this happening? Is conversion to Christianity seen as a factor? And why on earth, in a largely secular society in 2024, should anyone's decision to convert impact their state? I just can't understand the theory behind that, Asma. I've converted to Christianity, so therefore I'm more likely to be integrated, be worthy of a refugee status. I mean, you're either worthy of status or you're not worthy of status. Saying I'm now a Christian implausibly after three months or whatever. Does that make sense to you?
It does not at all. I'm just reading up on it here. He was allowed to remain in the UK after an immigration tribunal heard he had converted to Christianity, even though friends and neighbours claimed he still appeared to be a practising Muslim. That's just... I just don't understand why it's a factor. The whole thing.
Yeah, why are they even asking that question? And there's this question of whether the church is doing too much to sort of... Is the church being used? Is it being played by the asylum system? But why it's even a factor at all, I think, baffles me completely. I think we have got David back now. David, morning to you.
Morning, Stig.
It's extraordinary, this guy... We'll get to this immigration status in a moment, but it does seem extraordinary to many people that this guy's still on the run. Still, people don't know where he is.
Yeah, living off-grid. Remember, though, Stig, he's used to living on his own wits. He came over to the UK in the back of a lorry. I've spent time in the camps on the north coast of France where people can live for months relying on charitable aid, living in tents, live in absolute squalor. They're incredibly resilient. He will have a network of people who he's met in those camps in similar circumstances. And I think the police believe that perhaps they're helping him, which is why we've got this £20,000 reward offered yesterday for anyone with information about Abdul Ezedi.
Is that a rare move? Is 20,000 a lot of money as far as these things go?
It is a lot of money. Also, it's been offered relatively quickly. Quite often these rewards, if there's a sort of traditional police investigation, murder or something, they're often many months later. But I think this shows how seriously the police are treating this case. It is a nationwide investigation. He's got contacts around the country. We now know that he headed to East London, where he's got family. There's no suggestion they're involved at all. But perhaps he felt that he could be more anonymous there than perhaps somewhere a little bit smaller, like Newcastle.
He's got facial injuries himself, of course, as well, so it's quite hard for him to be anonymous, you'd have thought.
Indeed, I think that's the remarkable thing with the footage that the police released yesterday, the video footage, how noticeable that burn, that chemical burn around his right eye is. He's walking around, he must be in absolute agony. And as far as we're aware, he hasn't received any appropriate medical treatment. Charities working with Afghan refugees have appealed for him to come forward to do the right thing, not least to get treatment for his own injuries.
And how long do they keep kind of search like this? I mean, this is presumably quite a hot search at the minute. They're using an awful lot of resource on it. Did this carry on until they find him, or is there a time limit on this type of search?
No, this carries on. I remember doing the Rail Moat manhunt 10 years ago. And of course, it turned out that Rail Moat, the man who'd shot a police officer, was living in a storm drain, and he was subject of a very intense police search in a very small area and was able to avoid capture. So the police are putting considerable resources into this. He was in an area where there is lots of CCTV. They've almost certainly got more information than they're making public at this stage, Stig. In London, it's difficult to move around totally untraced.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just finally, are you surprised about this issue of him converting to Christianity and how Christianity has been seen as a sort of bolster to an asylum claim? It feels very strange to me that that's seen as a factor at all. Have you heard of that before?
Yes, I've come across it a number of times, not least the Liverpool maternity hospital bomber. It's a I was looking through cases yesterday where conversion to Christianity is highlighted as a grounds to avoid deportation because of the risk to their life if the person returns home.
Yeah.
How often is it abused? I think that's a really interesting question, Stig. There does seem to be lots of people converting, and I've met lots of migrants who are, without doubt, devout Christians who have converted successfully.
Yeah.
And there will always be those, and I spoke to somebody who works to convert migrants yesterday, who do have ulterior motives. And the Church of England, of course, has no national guidelines on how priests and churches should approach those migrants who are seeking to convert. And perhaps that's something that the Church of England, and also the Catholic Church also need to look at.
Yeah, people are suggesting one reason if you convert to Christianity, then you can use it as an excuse to say you can't be sent back to an Islamic country because you're now a convert where you'd be persecuted there. That's presumably thinking for some of them.
That's absolutely correct. Yes, that is a totally standard ground for having your asylum claim granted in the UK, the risk of persecution or even death because you've converted to Islam. There's a number of countries, not least Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, where these are absolutely standard claims. There's also parts of Africa where people have claimed that their conversion to Christianity puts them at risk of other religions as well. It's not just Muslim converts. But the immigration courts hear these, every week.
It's very, very cynical, and the question of what the Church of England's role in this is an open one that I think needs to be explored further, no doubt will. David, good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's David Brown there, The Times' chief news correspondent.